with that. Uh, so just with the app in general like that. So like I'm going to be posting kind of different things like this. There's also kind of like an email series as well too that you should be getting kind of over the next kind of few the next while that'll have kind of videos as well too. So like the idea kind of around this is that anybody that did kind of add in their weight, height, and activity levels. I gave them kind of a rough outline in terms of calories as well too that you can be aiming for throughout the day, and also you can kind of connect that to MyFitnessPal or track through the app as well too, in terms of if you want kind of feedback on your food throughout the program as well, and I can kind of give tips around it. Basically, like in terms of your own calories and stuff like that, there is like a calorie calculator as well too if you wanted to test out your cells, and you wanted to just do it outside of my calculations, you can do it as well too here. But that's it's not totally kind of necessary. So just in terms of performance, like what we'll talk through kind of tonight really is we won't do all of these sessions. I mean all these topics. We'll kind of cover some and then kind of come back to it as well. So I'm just going to introduce myself. We'll do just things around mindset, calories, macronutrients, and we'll stop then at pre and post nutrition as well too. And again, like I want to make it as interactive as possible. So in the group, like there's going to be different kind of challenges over the next kind of 2 weeks until we meet again. Just so like the main thing is that you're like putting this into practice, that it's not just, I suppose, a webinar, because like anybody can kind of like go to a webinar and just come away from it and take one thing from it. But if we're actually kind of practicing nutrition, by the end of it we'll come up with just kind of a match day kind of like nutrition plan then that you're able to kind of come away with. So just around myself, like I'm a dietitian. So the pictures are only like 3 years old, but I've grown a beard since, so that's why I look significantly older now at the moment. But I've done a master's in dietetics, nutritional science, and public health, and now I've been at Apex about 6 years. So we specialize in things like performance and everything else as well too, and worked with like a load of JA teams, especially around kind of like the Munster region as well too. So my main thing is that like you all have a competitiveness about you. Every J player has a competitive nature. We always kind of want to strive to be the best. And if you're skipping out on nutrition, then you're not going to be the best of the best. So it's mainly kind of putting nutrition at the forefront, saying, look, this like if I don't really concentrate on this, I'm not going to be able to like be the best that I want to be and get the most that I want out of my sport. So, if nutrition is compromised, we're looking at more injuries. We're looking at like low energy on the field, like longer term health, can be kind of impacted as well too. So, what I always say is that the person that you're marking could have 30 extra grams of carbs in their tank, and that kind of causes them to run a small bit faster and get that point, get that goal kind of at the end. And that could be the difference within a game. So if you do really want to kind of excel and start kind of, I suppose, like excelling in the team and being the best on the team, then the nutrition is really the most important part of that. What we want to do kind of throughout this program is just obviously improve nutrition. Then my kind of main message is that like food is great for performance and making us feel good as well. Just in terms of like the age category kind of at the moment, like there's a whole thing in terms of just like body composition and things like that, and I know in terms of like fear around like carbohydrates is a big thing as well too that can come up, and I'm kind of here to break down those kind of myths and almost say that like it's really good to have a full tank of fuel when it comes to kind of food and getting the nutrition right. Because as I said, like ultimately it really takes away from our energy if we're not doing that, and you're doing multiple training sessions a week. So nutrition is a real key in that, and making us feel good, and also food is there to support that as much as possible. And then we'll include kind of food challenges, and then kind of towards the end, what I'll do is I'll actually kind of go through the ins and outs of an actual match day kind of nutrition plan, and we'll build one out, and see then like how much you've learned kind of from the program. So yeah, so like it's not kind of like exams and stuff like that, but we'll just kind of get ideas around what you're doing at that stage, just to make it again as practical as possible. Um, so just with that, we're going to talk through like these are kind of the most important parts of nutrition. Everybody starts off with the supplements, thinking supplements are the greatest, and they're actually kind of the least important out of it all. Like yeah, the amount of people that come on programs saying, "Look, I'm taking these electrolytes, I'm like supplementing with this whey protein, I'm taking creatine." Like they do a very small amount, whereas we want to kind of focus a lot more at the start down the bottom, and we want to focus on like behaviors and lifestyle is just going to be um just like are we behaviors and like and it's going to be like are we training, are we kind of putting our all into kind of gym sessions and training sessions. Lifestyle then is kind of like are there a load of social events kind of at the weekend that is kind of getting in the way of our nutrition. The energy balance then is going to be kind of the main one we'll talk about today, and that is making sure again that your fuel tank is full when you're going out on the field. Because, for example, if we're hitting a target of 2,500 calories, that if we're down at something like 1,000 calories, then we're going to again risk injury and risk just not having the energy and feeling really flat on the field. Macronutrients we'll talk about are carbs, proteins, and fats. Micronutrients are your vitamins and minerals. So making sure that you're, not getting most of the calories from something like McDonald's and stuff like that. It's more kind of nutritious food 80% of the time. We'll do a bit about meal timing, what to eat before, during, and after, because I know just from the consultation forms that was something that you all kind of wanted to talk about. Um, and we'll touch on supplements as well too, probably later in the program. So your calories. So as I was saying, like you all got kind of a target to kind of start out with, if you did provide the details like that. So just in the app you'll find those kind of targets, like for each of you. So like if you did want to track or did want to um link it up with MyFitnessPal, just the free version, I can again provide kind of feedback on what you're tracking, even if you just do it for one day. So with this, like it's important that we go out in the field and keep the tank full. So like you can picture it as a battery, you can picture it as something like a car fuel tank that if like we'll use Cork and Louth. Like if I wanted to drive to Louth, like I'm going to need a full fuel tank to get that and get the best performance out of the car. If I'm only filling my car up this way, I'm gonna have to stop in, like Tip. I'm gonna have to stop in like Dublin, and that just like kind of disrupts the overall kind of efficiency of it all. So, because because we're doing so much kind of activity throughout the week, we need kind of a good bit of fuel in order to kind of support that. And it's just making sure we get that right. And once we get calories right, once we kind of feel that the battery is full, then we're going to feel a lot better on the field. And even through like our work day, college day, school day, it'll just really kind of feel a lot better that way. Um, so because of the higher calorie demands, things just like our day to day can get in the way. So like we can be busy with training. It's like how do I eat kind of before training? How do I eat and fit all that food in, I suppose, kind of with the work day. So it's all about kind of prep. Like I work with a lot of athletes, and the main thing is like having the food prepped, or else kind of having really quick alternatives that you can kind of have just like even in the car on the way to training. What we want to watch out for are things like gastro issues as well, so that we're not getting stomach issues from eating the food and bloating as well. So that basically when it comes to game day, that we're not kind of worried that, oh my God, my stomach is going to be all over the place like on that day. We want to kind of know what we're having. We want to kind of have a plan on those big kind of games, and stick to the plan, not change up kind of anything. And that's kind of the key now, I suppose, just on the lead up into kind of the end of the season and stuff like that. Just getting that right early on is important. So this is kind of the analogy. So like optimized performance again, kind of having the tank full is going to be the best option like that in this case. And just meeting that calorie target would be the goal that I would kind of recommend starting out with. And then we have the macronutrients, which are the carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Just to break it down kind of simply, like carbohydrates are there to give us energy. Like you'll hear a lot of people say things like bread, pasta are all kind of bad foods. In performance, they're crucial. They really do kind of give you that energy. If you really want to kind of like do things like sprinting, that's going to be the energy that you're going to be using. With protein, probably everybody's come across like protein. It's kind of the glamour kind of macronutrient, I suppose, on Instagram. Really, it's really important as well too to kind of include. And if there's any kind of vegetarians, vegans in the group as well too, we like there'll be kind of plant-based options we'll go through. And then fats are like just essential for vitamin absorption, and there's really good kind of healthy fats that can kind of help us as well too, in terms of just inflammation from training as well. So carbohydrates, we have simple and complex. So this is kind of important, I suppose, kind of pre-training. So the difference is simple, absorb very fast, complex, absorb fairly slowly. So if I was to go out and train in the next half an hour, but I'm just after a big bowl of pasta or like a load of oats or like brown rice, then like obviously I'm going to feel a rock in my stomach, and probably going to end up getting sick. So we don't want that close. We don't want complex carbs close to training. We want more kind of simple carbs because like if I have something like a banana, if I have something like a cereal bar, those carbs would be quickly absorbed into my system, and that way I don't feel like I have a rock in my stomach and that I'm not getting stitches out on the field, that I'm able to just perform kind of really at my best and not have to worry about that. Um, so that's kind of basically kind of the difference. What I would say is like for all your kind of main meals like that, kind of including something like a brown rice, brown pasta. If you don't like the brown alternatives, you can include the white ones as well. It's just the brown ones tend to have more fiber, which is good for gut health. So then like with proteins, we have incomplete and complete. So any vegetarians, any vegans in the group, if there is, just getting a mix of your plant-based. So the difference is animal and plant-based sources. So we want a mixture of the plant-based sources if vegetarian, like your beans, veg, nuts, seeds, things kind of like that. And then just with training, like protein becomes really important. It's almost like kind of with training, it's like a cement wall, like your muscle, so that it starts breaking down the muscle and protein comes in and builds that back up. It's like the cement that fixes the crack. So basically with protein we want to kind of get a protein source at each meal if we can. So like for something like breakfast, you could have something like a yogurt. Lunch, there could be kind of like chicken included in that, and you could have fish then for something like dinner. So just getting those kind of regularly throughout the day is the main thing in order to hit protein targets. Um, with fats then too, and I call them like the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the good are considered in green. So it's just using a small amount of these in cooking and things like that. So like with seeds, like flax seeds and chia seeds, you could sprinkle those over something like yogurt. Olive oil, like rapeseed oil, you could use those a small bit in cooking. Small bit of avocado and your fatty fish as well too. Like if anybody's into salmon, that's a great source as well too. And you might have heard of like omega-3s before. That's where you're going to find a lot of those, and they're very anti-inflammatory, so it's actually good for overall health. We want to just kind of moderate things then, like just the trans-saturated and saturated. These are going to be kind of sausages, rashers, pudding, like spreads, cheese. So yeah, just like moderating these and trying to limit like the trans-saturated. So they're very slow in terms of digestion as well too. So like if you obviously were going to have something like confectionery or like a takeaway before like a big game, probably wouldn't like recommend it, just because of the stomach issues associated with that. It's just a very slow transit time. So we want to like kind of keep these again away from like an hour before training because it'll just cause bloating and cramping. So kind of going into the pre and post, so like the 2 to 3 hours beforehand, we want something kind of like so it depends like what time of day kind of training is. Like obviously like a lot of it would probably be just in the evening. If you're playing matches early in the day, kind of at the weekend, then that would change up in terms of a plan. But if it's in the evening, and like you're finished work or you just finished college and you've like an hour left, then I probably wouldn't choose one of these carbohydrates just because again, they take a bit of time to digest, and for each athlete it's different as well. So some are grand with like 2 hours beforehand. Some are grand with like some need the kind of 3 hours then too just to digest it. So it's just about kind of experimenting now at the moment. And if it is kind of in it, like if you do have kind of like the 2 hours to play with before kind of before training, something like even like a bowl of cereal, a small bowl of cereal like that is handy as well. Or else just something like your dinner. So if you're to have like something like a chicken curry and rice, that would be great. If you're to have something like a bolognese with pasta, that would be good. Or like kind of meat, veg, and potatoes would be great as well too. So that just kind of again gives us that energy that we need. What I'd say is just just kind of take into consideration these kind of two slides because I'm going to kind of start the challenge kind of based off these kind of now. So the biggest misconception is that like if you're looking at labels that the weight of the product, so if you had like 60 grams of pasta, that equals the 60 grams of carbs. So like that's not the way it works. Just as well too if you've ever looked at labels. Um so this is just kind of an example of what 20 grams of carbs are. So like if we're looking at about 60 to 150 grams of carbs at that stage, it's going to be a decent amount of pasta that we'll need kind of the 2 to 3 hours beforehand. It's a decent amount of potatoes as well too, bread. So that just kind of gives you a scale of, I suppose, how much we need. Whereas like kind of one potato is like 20 grams of carbs. The same with something like one banana or something like that. It's not a whole pile. So so like it's just about looking at what you're eating throughout the day at the moment and assessing like if that's enough as well too. Then we have kind of the pre-workout, so like 1 hour beforehand or during. So again, we want to kind of keep these light. So if it is like these are kind of the best, I suppose, if you're rushing from work, or like college or anything like that. That like even having like a cereal bar, something like that, just gives you a little bit of a top up of carbohydrate before you go playing on the field. Um, the same with kind of fruit smoothies. Like I've had people before just like carry smoothies to matches and things like that too. It's just handy to get more and more kind of carbs in, and then again like cereals as well are a great one. Just because they're very light on the stomach. Um, at half time, you can have things kind of like Lucasade Sport as well too, just to kind of like you don't need a massive amount of carbohydrates at half time, and the main thing is that we're not disrupting the stomach again, kind of at that stage, because if you're to take in a load of cereal bars at that point, it could again cause stomach issues. So just like even mouth rinses of Lucozade Sport. Or I've seen things like Jaffa cakes and things and jellies and things like that before as well too. But I find just either the fruit, the Lucozade, or something like a flapjack cereal bar, square bar, are just easy to kind of have in the bag, and just give you that boost. If you've never done that before, I definitely recommend trying it, because even kind of the sensation of having like sugar just kind of even wakes us up a little bit. So that would be good to practice. And then we have kind of post workout as well too. So this is up to kind of 20 minutes to 2 hours after. And essentially this is just because, again, our muscles are kind of like the wall, like the cracks do appear kind of after all this training, and that's where the soreness and the DOMS kind of come in. So delayed onset muscle soreness. Protein helps kind of bring that back up again. But the main thing, what helps improve recovery as well as protein, is including a carb source. So, like, research has shown that if you include a carb source with a protein source, it actually enhances your recovery a little bit more. So, if you don't feel like eating after a hard training session, I would go down kind of the dairy route. So, like, your yogurts and your milk will have carbs and protein in them at the same time. So you can have something like that, that's light on the stomach as well. If any of you are taking like whey protein and stuff like that, that's a similar kind of area to this. So, like, you can supplement with a protein shake as well. If you do feel like eating afterwards, like, you can have something, if it's a late session, you could have something like your dinner after, where you're having again kind of like salmon and pasta, like steak, chicken, rice, potatoes, but just making sure that you're mixing them up kind of like that, and having them kind of together is the main thing. So what I'd say, kind of like after this call, I suppose kind of this week is mainly kind of practicing this, practicing your kind of like pre post kind of nutrition. Especially that kind of especially kind of like this, the 2 to 3 hours and the hour outside of that, if you're not doing that kind of already. Um, and then, as I said, like, if you did want to track food, you can, and I can kind of give feedback off that then too as well. So, kind of the challenge, the task for the next 2 weeks. So we'll be doing a call, because it's a 6 week period. I want to try and get 3 calls in. So we'll try and do a call every 2 weeks like this. But I want to kind of make use and, like, just, I suppose, kind of get things going in this group as much as possible, because like you all know each other like that. So don't be afraid to post questions in it. But what I kind of want to see over the next 2 weeks is that you're having a pre kind of snack, or a pre workout or training meal. So if you all could just at least post like one picture of what you're having, that would be good, and I can kind of give feedback then off it the following time. So that's the main thing, like, that we're putting the nutrition into practice, because again, if we leave a webinar like this, it's like, oh geez, that was grand, but at the end of the day, if we're not practicing this stuff, it's not going to come to anything really. So yeah, so like, before we kind of like finish up on anything, like, does anybody have any kind of questions on that? You can put them in the chat too if you don't want to speak.